Hello, I'm Sharon.
And I'm Wendy.
Welcome
Welcome
to
to
Brown
Brown
Space.
Space.
This is a safe space where we talk about the hard topic of racism.
And build empathy through the healing power of conversation.
Thank you for joining us.
As part of the Latino community, I've experienced my privilege as well because I'm a light-skinned Latino and I didn't know this. It was anything until I moved to Florida, really. Because I'm from Massachusetts originally, and my town was comprised of white Bostonians, but then it was also Puerto Ricans and Dominicans, and my families are Dominican and Haitians and everything like that. So we grew as a minority. I remember in high school, one of my dear friends, came from Queens, New York, and she came to freshman class and we became friends. And she's like, "This is the first time." She's coming from New York. "This is the first time I'm taking classes with white people. I've only had classes with Black people or Latinos." And for me, I didn't know I had an accent until I moved to Florida, where everybody here is so, it's like a highlighter, an array of highlighters of you. What are you? Like, so many people care so much down here than ever before. And up until I was 18 years old, I never knew I had an accent. I thought my English was like, as Celia Cruz would say, my English is not very good looking. So I thought my English was perfect in that regard. Like I was void of accent. And then I learned that here. So the reason I say that, I didn't realize I was any different until I came down here and other people were not guessing my socioeconomic background. I always get asked, "What are you? Where are you from?" I'm like, "My family." I'm like, "Guess." And they always say, "Are you Puerto Rican?" I get that 100% of the time first. "Are you Cuban?" No. "Are you Colombian? Venezuelan?" And then they go, "You can't be Dominican though." I'm like, "Why?" And they say, I don't know any light Dominicans. So I'm not the same thing, but within our community of the Latin people, I get that. And there is, unfortunately, an elitism within the Latinos that separate you in the ranks, like you being a white woman, I'm being a light skinned Latino. And it's rather frustrating because I get discredited for that at times, for that just because of my skin color, but then I'm also included at the same time. Now I'm strong in who I am, so things like that don't really bother me because I'm like, that's your ignorance. Go look at Latinos everywhere. They were all every single shade, literally. So I wanted just to find a connection in a distant connection, but we are connected to some point just based on skin color in two different worlds, believe it or not.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that term colorism has come up a lot in recent years, where within different communities, the shade of your skin, not just the basic color, if there's a basic, but the shade plays in. And Sharon and Christopher, have you experienced colorism in different ways?
I have a friend, Ayize, Queen Ayize, Ayize Hanif. She's African, and she tends to other me in conversation, when she's talking about her experience because she's dark skinned. And it's interesting nuance in our relationship because on one end, she's absolutely right. In many ways, there are going to be so many experiences that I can just deal with easier. I won't get the brunt end of the stick. In particular, because of the marriage of not only my light skin, but if I cover my hair and I offer my scholastic tone of voice, you don't even, it commands a certain thing. But Miss Sharon knows when, no, when I'm with my family or comfortable at home, I'm actually quite country. And I actually talk like this in real life.
Wow.
So
Okay. Wow.
there is a code switch that has to take place in order for me to be a professor, or in order for me to be the founder of the festival, in order for me to do this and that, and to get the things done that I need to get done. But with that said, Ayize is right. There is so many things that as a light skinned person make it different. But that's the first uh, thing that came up as you start talking about colorism, because we're friends and it happens in conversation. Sometimes I need to go, girl.
For me, I guess I know of these vernaculars, but
Yeah.
I've been in such a bubble, I guess it's a bubble, a cultural bubble in terms of who I am as a woman of African descent, because I
Mhm.
was brought up in New York. I was raised in New York City, where your cultural identity or your ethnicity, you know that, Edgar, is it's you are who you are and you're proud of who you are. So I think that has made me like the unicorn here,
Mhm.
in terms of being here in Southwest Florida and the things that I bring to the table in terms of being proud of that, and I've never wavered from that. I don't find it necessary to try to switch over, try to fit in, because I guess in that sense, I'm the unusual because of the fact that, hey, we're gonna do some traditional West African dance. It'll be all white people here, but this is what we're gonna do. They're gonna love it, and they do, right? Because it's about celebration and appreciation. Um,
I want to ask you a question on that too. When does it become appropriation? When is it allowed then?
when does it become
For ex-
appropriate?
for example,
Appropriation is when
Mhm.
another group of people, right, takes
Mhm.
on the identity of a culture and then uses it to their benefit, right? It's appreciation and celebration as long as you can always give credit to where it is that it came from,
Good.
and not own it as if now this is me,
Good.
right?
I want to clear that up because if anybody hears that, they're like, I want to try that dance, but I don't want to offend anybody. It's very different when it's the one or the other. So thank you for that.
Yeah, yeah. And
Now,
I speak to that a lot, with my students in class, to be very careful about the difference between appropriation and appreciation.
Yeah.
Yes, I celebrate, appreciate, and take the time to have that cultural humility to really understand, right? Rather than, this looks really cool, I'm going to do this.
I like that cultural humility.
cultural humility is nice. Yeah.
I like that very much.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting to hear you say that you don't feel the need to code switch, because I happen to do it as a safety measure.
Hmm.
I've been put in harm's way because of my blackness. So we can't have that, not just because I'm going to work.
Mhm.
So we're going to approach the meeting this way, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
We're going to present the information this way so that that gets done and I get back to my car and I get home without
Safety.
any backlash or whatever that's going to be. So that's interesting to hear from you. Dark skin, black woman,
Hmm.
hair.
And I can tell you that I guess I'm experiencing or living that life of seeing that, you're gonna get, but so far in this particular system,
Yeah.
and so it's always a lot of reminding myself and self-talk of, okay, you're even bigger than that. You're bigger than that system. Because my goal is to cultivate people like you, Christopher, right? My goal is to think back and go, okay, there's this person, this person, this person, this person that I've impacted that is going to and it might sound kind of idealist, I guess, but it's who I am.
No, it's what you've done.
I was giggling when you were speaking just now, Christopher, because you sounded like Barack Obama. But I'm like still digesting the fact that just going to work or going home, like just driving in your car can be dangerous. And I know, like I know that
between the rings and the thing, it's just, and I've had, I always tell this story. I had my last car I had for like 7 years. I was pulled over 3 times in this car, and all 3 times, mind you, I've got my license, I've got my registration. They're able to go back to their system. They told me I stole the car 3 different times. The last time, the officer had me to get out of the car and unscrew my license plate on my knees, confiscated that, sent me off without a license plate. I had to go to a court date, which I thought I was going to see a judge. I was not. When I started to speak my case, he told me I'm not a judge. I started to kind of speak again. He was like, I'm not a judge. Are you going to pay the fee or you want to go to court? And I was like, well, he said, if you go to court, there might be attorney's fees and all that. So if you don't want that, just pay the $35 fee and say you're guilty. And well, I'm not guilty. Okay, well, what are you going to do? I'm not a judge. He was like pissed with me. I just remember feeling really defeated by the system, by the experience of being on my knees, by me being confused by the process of undoing my license plate, by me knowing that's the 3rd time that happened with the car review. Like, it's just an odd thing. I was so defeated that I went and told him I was guilty and paid $35, and I don't fucks with the police. So to give you an example of some experiences that left me with a emotional wound, perhaps, that then I don't reopen. And I use my diction and my tone of voice to help shield me from that. But just to give you an example, and I'm a light-skinned guy, Yeah.
It's interesting because we've had that conversation in terms of, the way you would talk or present. And I think for me, because I was not born here, my accent and my diction, this is what it is.
Sure, yeah.
Right? And so there is a different kind of treatment that one receives as someone who has been born and raised here as an African American as opposed to an African Caribbean. Okay, so that's that whole dynamic in terms of presenting in the room, because this is how I present.
Yeah.
All right. Short of if I'm with other Jamaicans who speak the dialect, then that's how that comes out. As far as those experiences, I've been fortunate enough not to have had many, but I've had some. However, I think that because of my upbringing and the heart that I've had allies. So I think I've shared on Brown Space before, where I got pulled over. Did I share that before? Where I got pulled over, and one of my colleagues, who was a dance instructor at one of the performing arts high schools here, we just happened to have left the building at the same time. And so she was driving behind me, and I was going down the road, both of us, same speed, everything. And I got cut off and pulled over. And so my colleague came out of the car and was like, why did you pull her over? And I'm going, why did I get pulled over? My colleague then said, well, if you're going to give her a ticket, you're going to have to give me a ticket.
Brava.
So there's a lot to be said about really, reaching across the aisle and crossing that divide and building those really valuable relationships, because times like that, it does come in handy. I mean, that wasn't my reason for building the relationship, but, it just speaks volumes about the importance of, just getting to know people, appreciating people, period, regardless of,
Yeah.
and as a Black female that have heard so many stories like yours, Christopher, and have family members that have gone through it, sometimes it breaks my heart. And I think that's why we're doing Brown Space, a big part of it.
Yeah, definitely.
You've been watching Brown Space with Sharon and Wendy.
It's been so great talking and sharing here today. We look forward to your comments below, or you can email us at brownspace2020@gmail.com.
Remember, you are the light that gives light to the world.